Hi, I'm Rebecca at Close.io, bringing you our interview series where we feature women in sales and find out how they grow and thrive both personally and professionally. Today, I'm chatting with Sarah Haselkorn, Head of Sales Operations at MakeSpace, the first technology-enabled full-service storage solution. Their movers will come to you, pick up your stuff, and create an online photo catalog of it and deliver it back to you whenever you need it. So in 2011, during her university studies, Sarah founded Green Bean, a fast casual sustainable restaurant, and in 2013, she started Unfettered Socks, a company that she still runs today with her co-founders. She's an investor, an advisor, and she has a degree in systems engineering from Washington University in St. Louis. Sarah, I met you at our New York customer meetup because MakeSpace is a customer of Close.io, and from the moment I started speaking with you and hearing about how you run your team, I was like, this girl is so cool. I need to connect with her. I got to find out, I need to learn about Close.io from this girl because, she knows some stuff that I probably don't even know. You're definitely a boss chick. So that's why we wanted to feature you in this series. The first question that, the first theme I'd like to talk about is emotional resilience. I think it's really important in the startup world. And if we want to talk departmental wise, I think people in customer facing roles are more vulnerable to that emotional roller coaster, talking to people and stuff like that. So I'd like to know how you've become emotionally resilient over the course of your life.
It's a great question. It's a great question, I think, because it is so important. And I think it's something that when I was starting my career or even before I started my career, it's not necessarily a word or a theme that I specifically thought about. And it wasn't until probably a couple of years later when I started to develop it that I actually consciously thought about cultivating that and thought about how critical that was to me as a business person. So in terms of how I actually built it, I would say it's a combination of a lot of things, which is true for many things. It's both nature and nurture, right? So there's a little bit of it that I believe that you're born with in a little bit of a way. And I think there are components of it that get established quite early on in life. So I definitely have my parents to thank for that. They really taught me that you have to go out and earn what you want. But then I would say the most critical thing in terms of starting my career and really developing emotional resilience was that you have to put yourself in situations where you can develop it. So you have to take those risks. I would say I do genuinely believe in sort of the power of saying no, but I do believe that the most important time to say yes is when it scares you a little bit. And those are the moments when you say yes to that thing that's going to scare you a little bit. Those are the times when you're like, okay, cool. Well, that means that in the next 3 to 6 months, I'm going to see a lot of opportunities to execute my emotional resilience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say it's definitely just about actually taking those risks. You have to set yourself up for those opportunities.
So you started Green Bean, and that was when you were enrolled in full-time university. So why did you pursue that endeavor, and how did you grow from it? What did you learn from it? I'm sure that was one of those testing your emotional resilience periods in your life.
Definitely. It definitely tested my emotional resilience. So, I mean, the main reason why I wanted to go out and do that was, well, a couple of things. I was studying engineering. I've always been kind of an entrepreneurial person that wanted to build things or do things better or do something myself. And I guess I didn't feel like I was getting that in the classroom, if that makes sense. I had an amazing education. I had access to amazing resources, professors, network, etc. But I'm a very hands-on learner. And I was like, I see an opportunity in the market. I want to be pushed outside of my comfort zone, not sitting in a classroom or taking an exam or absorbing information in a passive way, but I want to take an active role in my education right now. And I think the best way to do that is just to start this. Like I just I couldn't see any reason not to at that point.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the main reason why I did it. Obviously running my own business, especially as a physical business, you see absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I wore every single hat. I did everything at least once. Like there was nothing, truly nothing from start to finish that I didn't experience. So it's kind of this totally holistic education. Like I call it my
Yeah.
real world MBA.
Oh, awesome.
Because yeah, it's like I went from, it's over, it's done. I closed the restaurant, and from starting it up to opening day to closing it to winding it down, like there's the full life cycle of a business right there.
Right.
And I experienced all of that basically by age 21, and I started my
Wow.
professional career and was like, cool, well, I've seen it end, start, fail, succeed, like all
Yeah.
right. Like I've at least seen it happen all once.
I came, I saw, I conquered. Okay, what's the next thing to do? So
Yeah.
what did you then do upon graduation? What were your first couple of years in your real world professional career like?
Yeah, so when I was a senior, I was still running Green Bean, and I essentially, I think that the most important way to think that I was thinking about my career in that way was about having options, always
Yeah,
having a plan B.
for sure.
And so as a senior, I guess as a person who was still in college, I sort of had this opportunity to create a couple of parallel paths for myself, so
Hmm.
that come 9 months later, if the restaurant wasn't working out, I would have another option. So I started applying to jobs as a senior, and I came across a really cool opportunity for a management training program with Anheuser-Busch. And having been in school in St. Louis, obviously they recruit very heavily from St. Louis schools, and they have a really close connection with the community. So I ended up getting accepted as a global management trainee, and that was to start after I graduated. And I knew that I essentially I could accept that offer and then have some time to figure out how I was going to manage both if I wanted to have both opportunities moving forward.
Hmm.
And so when I graduated, I ended up starting with them and started training and traveling for a year and learning in breweries, distribution
Wow.
centers, regional sales offices. Yeah, so I had a ton of different, like a lot of exposure to many different departments and cross-functional projects and
Yeah.
opportunities and networking and things like that. And it was actually having a little bit of distance from my physical business that helped me realize that it was time to shut it down. So it's kind of crazy how life sort of works that way, and every
Yeah.
decision that you make kind of feeds into another. Because ultimately, if I hadn't taken that position, it may have taken me much, much longer to realize that that was the right choice for my business.
Wow. I'm like a little bit speechless right now because, so many people that are going to be watching this like can relate to that feeling of I've got that entrepreneurial bug in me and I want to go out and do something. And you often hear about, starting companies, running companies. But the life after that, not a lot of people talk about, and how that kind of leads you onto the next thing.
It totally does. And it's amazing. Like, not only was it the experiences that I was having at Anheuser-Busch that made me realize or give me some maturity and perspective to realize what I needed to do,
Yeah.
it then exposed me to even greater experiences and opportunities. Like the act, or I guess the act of actually, calling all of my employees and letting them know what we were going to have to do and how I was going to support them through that transition and why I was doing it, and doing that all remotely, with a team that I had built and cultivated for 2 years in a different city who were like my family. I mean, that in itself was a huge learning experience, and
Wow.
made me feel like, well, it gave me a lot of important skills as a manager, but
Yeah.
definitely an interesting thing to go through.
Damn. Well, I hope you didn't have to hold a cake and dance because someone at our company had to do that at one
What?
point.
Why? What is that? What was that for?
People that like have gone way back to Stelly's old videos, he talked about how he had to let go of like the Elastic sales team, and in doing that and delivering that message, he had to hold a cake and dance. So
Wow. You know, if anyone's going to be holding a cake and dancing, I feel like it's going to be Stelly.
yeah, for sure. Oh my God. So wow. And how old were you by the time you were just like shutting it down and calling everybody?
Yeah, I guess so. I was 19 when we opened, and then I was 21 when we closed.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months after that, I was finished with the management training program. And Anheuser-Busch moved me to Miami for kind of like a new role and a new opportunity for their field sales team. And there wasn't a huge team down there at the time. There wasn't they were kind of building a team there, and so that was really cool because I got to help kind of grow that team and figure out how to capitalize on opportunities in that market. And I ended up staying there for almost 3 years within the sales organization.
So you know about what it's like to be on the ground, literally and figuratively, in sales. And what are some of the things in your day-to-day that you help the salespeople at MakeSpace with?
So the role that I took here is sales operations. So prior to me being here, there was a sales director, 2 sales managers, sales reps, but there wasn't a ton of metrics-driven management. So the big thing that I came here to do is to bring sort of a data-driven mindset to performance management, and focus on a couple of discrete projects around sales process, sales cycle, and things like that, but also to make the team more efficient and actually optimize our existing sales force. So, I mean, one of the first projects that I implemented here was working with you guys on beta testing the auto dialer, which has been really awesome.
Yeah, you guys were really great in terms of giving us the feedback. Like I felt like every day in company chat, I would hear something from the product team being like, "Oh, MakeSpace is like telling us this thing. This is the last."
Oh, Sarah has us on speed dial. Yeah.
Sarah running all the things at MakeSpace and at Close.io, but we didn't even know. That's amazing. Well, you're one badass, tough lady, and something that I learned about you is that outside of work, when you're not running companies or enabling sales teams, you're doing triathlons. So tell us about that.
Sure. Sometimes I do that. Yeah. So
it's not like every 24/7, like any spare moment she gets, she's running.
Oh yeah. I triathlon to work. Like I swim the first part and then I bike the next leg and then I run the last section.
Whoa. I didn't know your morning routine was so intense. Damn, girl.
I know, right? No. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely like a very goal-oriented person. So I've never done an Ironman or anything crazy like that. But when I was in high school, I was like home working for a summer at a research lab, and my mother is a fitness instructor. So fitness has always been a huge part of our family and my life, and I've had a lot of exposure to it in a really positive way. And so she used to have a lot of fitness magazines that she would use for like getting like new ideas and moves for the exercise classes that she always had fitness and shape and like all those typical fitness magazines. And so I was like flipping through one day and I saw this like triathlon training guide, and it was something like, from your couch to a sprint try in 12 weeks or something like that. And I was like, oh, a summer is 12 weeks. I could definitely do that. And I was athletic. I liked sports and all that, but I had never done anything on such an individual level. Like I'd always played team sports, stuff like that. But I'd never sort of challenged myself personally in such a physical and mental way. And so I was like, this would be a great challenge to keep me super focused and occupied this summer while I'm looking for something to really keep me motivated outside of my internship. So I decided, I just literally tore out the guide and I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I did it. And my parents were super supportive. They drove me to Luray, Virginia for a triathlon. And it was totally exhilarating. Like, the community around triathlons is so supportive and nice, and just a really great group of people. And the feeling of actually crossing the finish line is pretty unbelievable. And it's I totally get it. It's totally addicting. Like, performance athletes, I totally understand it. So I wanted to, I did basically one a summer after that. And then I eventually did an Olympic distance one, which is about twice the length of most sprint triathlons. I did that one in Miami. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I did a half marathon at one point, which I loved. That was really cool. But it's just, I love, I want to stay active. Like, it really helps me stay focused at work. It helps me feel good in my life. And having actually little goals to work towards makes it so much easier to get to the gym or put on your running clothes or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're so like, action oriented, and like, you've definitely got the hustle. Just like seeing something like a plan written out for you in that magazine and just being like, yep, this is what I'm going to do this summer.
Yeah,
That's freaking awesome.
Again, I think a lot of it's nature and nurture. Like, I don't know why as a 15-year-old I read that and was like, great,
You're
like
15?
Let's do it.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't know why. I can't explain it, but I can say that it's really important to recognize that in yourself and then go cultivate it. So that's what I tried to do.
You also mentioned something really great to me about, I guess, like, cultivation for oneself. So you have a great mantra about silence, and it's you said embrace the silence in times of difficulty, or like while you're running in a triathlon, when you're doing long, difficult tasks. Embrace the silence, because some of your best ideas come to you when you're not crowded with thoughts. And I think that was an amazing insight. So tell us what you mean by that. And if you can, maybe some examples of times when you had insights and what those things were. I love hearing about those really cool eureka moments.
Sure. So I think that was something that I didn't quite understand until I started doing triathlons. And the reason why is that, unlike other performance races, you are not allowed to have headphones. So it's a very odd sensation to train for a long time on a bike with music or with whatever it is that keeps you motivated, podcasts, music, whatever. To do that for miles and miles and miles, and then get to the race day and you can't have your music, and you end up pretty far away from other people in a race like that, because since there's so many different sections of the race and they stage out the waves of when you actually begin it, unless it's a gigantic race, you pass someone every couple of minutes maybe, so you're pretty much by yourself with nothing to listen to, and so that was like a really weird sensation for me. It was really unique, and I think after being exposed to that for the first time, I realized that there's probably something to it, and a lot to gain from it. And I notice it all the time. I notice it when I'm falling asleep at night and my mind is kind of racing, but often my best thoughts will come to me as I'm trying to fall asleep. And I think that's pretty common. I think a lot of people feel that way. Shower thoughts, stuff like that. But what I think is really important is definitely to embrace it and be self-aware enough to know that that's a need that you have in your development of ideas and progress. So what's really important to me is that, like, I work at a company and in an environment where that is totally supported. Like, a lot of the projects that I work on are highly analytical, they're large scale problems to solve. And so a lot of times my boss will come to me and he'll say, hey, I think we need to work on this, this, and this. And I can say to him, okay, I think I have some ideas, but let me think about this for a bit and get back to you. And he's totally supportive of that. Like if I said, hey, I need to go sit in this conference room with a whiteboard for an hour and figure this out and come back to you with a really strong solution, he's going to support that work style and understand that that's my process for getting the best results.
Yeah. It's probably a reminder that a lot of us need to hear in fast-paced industries or, at startups, because oftentimes there's just so much going on. Like there's stuff you need to get done internally, there's stuff you need to get done externally for customers, and sometimes it's like there's just so much in your own brain that you don't even have the room in there to process it. But once you do, it all kind of falls into place where you just take that 1 minute or an hour or even a day to just chill out.
You just have to be aware of what the need is between where you are now and what the deliverable is. And it's like, hey, I know I'm going to need 2 hours to put it together, and I'm going to need like 1 hour to brainstorm it, and I'm going to need this many hours to do some actual tactical work in between. And actually just being aware of what that expectation is super useful in terms of planning.
Yeah, that's a great point. Planning before you kind of jump into it head on. So last question, like just hearing your story through all this, I'm sure you have some life habits, some routines that kind of keep you on track and kind of cultivate that disciplined nature in you. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, do you have certain habits or routines that you always stick to?
I have some. I'm really not a morning person. So I'm not one of those people that's like, I get up at 5:30 and I have my coffee and I work out. Hold on one sec. I'm just going to close this other window really quickly.
No problem.
It's making noises. Cool.
Life of a startup, people. Always trying to get to you.
Yeah, it's like, I also run our live chat, and so I have like messages coming in all day. So
fun.
Many hats.
There you go.
So I'm not really the kind of person that has, a crazy regimented 5:30 a.m. routine involving coffee and workout and thinking time and breakfast or anything like that. But I think there's a couple of things that are really important. And I think it's higher level like life organization, which is like one, just understanding your own needs at any given time. So like having your own personal hierarchy of needs, and when you're frustrated or anxious about something that's going on, actually identifying what is the problem there. So
like a framework, you like pinpoint like, hey, this is the thing that's like, yeah.
So you can kind of get rid of all distractions in everything you do. I guess what I mean by that is one of my, one of the philosophies that I like live by the most is that I want to direct 100% of my energy into the things that I can control and 0% of my energy into the things that I can't control. And so here's the catch though, is that there are things that we can't control that still have the ability to affect us and bother us in a large number of ways. And so what I guess I mean is the identification process of figuring out when something isn't in my control, why is it bothering me and how can I deal with it and how can I stop directing any energy towards it. So if I realize that I'm being distracted by something that I can't control, I just ask myself, okay, cool. So do I just need to recognize that that's what's happening? And if that doesn't solve the problem, I move on to the next thing. And I say, okay, do I need to just say out loud that this is happening and bothering me? If that doesn't solve the problem, I move on to other things like, am I just hungry? Do I just need to work out right now? Like, what are my other needs that are not being met right now that are letting this thing actually affect what I'm trying to do?
Yeah.
So that's just more of like the framework that I operate within. And that's why as a larger routine, I try to make sure I'm keeping normal habits that actually drive my success. So working out on a regular basis. That doesn't mean that I have to feel guilty if I don't go to the gym one morning. I didn't go to the gym this morning, and I'm still going to have a good day. It means, going to different support networks when I have other needs that I need to talk through and things like that. Knowing who to go to, when to call my best friend versus my mom versus my boyfriend. Like, these are all just, you just need to be aware of like how to resolve your own problems very quickly so that you can get right back to your focus.
Yeah, it's kind of like a framework or like a step-by-step process of elimination. But
Yeah,
asking,
exactly.
am I hangry right now, is like always a totally valid question. I feel like
It's a
regardless of
it's a
anything,
totally valid question. Like,
hanger is so real.
there are some times where it's the most simple thing, and it's like, what is preventing me from being successful at this task that I'm trying to do right now? And if the answer is coffee, don't be ashamed, be relieved, because that's the easiest thing to fix. Like,
sometimes it is the little things that get you, and it's okay, because that means that there's an easy fix, and it doesn't require this huge elaborate life makeover, nothing dramatic like that. It's just,
exactly.
I just need to step out, do my thing.
Totally easily resolved.
So I hate to let you go, Sarah, but Sarah actually has a meeting that was supposed to start a bit ago with Liz, our customer success manager at Close.io. So I'm actually holding her up. I'm actually holding Liz up from like helping Sarah out with some questions she has about Close.io. But before I do let you go, can you give us a plug for anything that you're passionate about, whether it's Unfettered Socks or maybe something else that you're working on, and let us know where our audience can find you.
Sure. Well, you can find me online. I'm on Instagram on Sarah Startups. I don't really post anything particularly interesting, but you're welcome to follow me. You can absolutely check out unfetteredsocks.com if you're looking for performance dress socks in a variety of styles. And I don't
Your
really
website, sarahhaselkorn.com. She's got a website. It's a great website.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you have questions or you want to contact me, the easiest way would be to go to my website, and you can actually email me through the website. So
awesome.
Always happy to answer any questions. I don't know how valuable my advice is to other people, but when people are seeking it, I'm always happy to give it. So
for sure.
Happy to help anyone.
Well, I've learned a ton from this. One of the things that I need to reach out to you about after this is how to improve my cardio, because I freaking hate cardio, and I cannot get through that thing without like angry rap music or something. And the fact that you can run triathlons without any music, I need to call you up, and we need to figure this out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.